What's up, guys? I'm back with another render and another behind the scenes tutorial on my most recent one, Echoes of the Void. This one's kind of like a part tour to my last one, the trance one, with the similar vibe and similar lighting. If you want to know how I made this and see what methods I used, here you guys go. Enjoy. All right, so here we go. We got the viewport. The whole animation itself is 475 frames, and the render settings I have it on was at 200% resolution. So it was basically at like rendering at 4K for every single frame. So that's the reason why it took a whole week just to render. The reason why I needed to do it at 4K was because at regular 1080p there was a lot of noise artifacting, and it looked really bad in the final result. So I had to up the samples and up the resolution. Besides that though, here is the first scene. I saw this video of a person in China recording a POV of him in like a courtyard, and then they look down and it turns out the courtyard's actually on top of a building. So what you thought you were on the ground floor, but it turns out you're actually super high up in the air. I wanted to kind of give that same illusion, so that's basically what I did. I created this kind of street scene, and then when it pulls out, it reveals the whole city part instead. All right, here we go. I just put it into material view so you can see all the textures and stuff. These are just buildings that I bought a pack a while ago that were just regular solid buildings, and I textured all the buildings myself, and they're pretty low poly too, which is really good for a scene like this. And then as for the shops, I literally just got PNGs of shops and I made them bright and put them in where they would look good, along with lights that would also match the color of the shop, so kind of similar color to the shop. And that's what I did for each one of these. Same with like these in-between buildings, I put like a image like an alleyway, so it feels like it does go further back. And that's what I did for this whole part right here, just more shops and more buildings and stuff. And then for the behind the buildings, I found this image on textures.com of just like slums type of buildings, and I just did like a while ago some simple extrusion to make the buildings look a little more 3D, give it more depth. Just put a railing, and then this is the crowds, procedural crowds add-on. I love using this add-on for background people. I don't think you even see them in the final render, so they're just there for the extra details that people love to spy out, I guess. Like, yeah, they're barely even there. I don't think people even really notice them in the final render. And then on the other side, behind the camera, I literally just rendered out. Here, I could show you exactly what I did. I literally just got like a view like this, and then I went to view and then do viewport render image, and it gives me this. And that's literally all I did for this side right here. So if I go to the shader menu and then I put the alpha back in, make it more opaque, you can literally see what it looks like. Like, there's nothing too special. It's literally just a plane of what the other side was, because the camera is never going to look at the other side. The camera is only looking from this angle, so you'll never see what's behind the camera. So it's easy to just get away with something stupid looking like this. As for the road, I used the road from my last project, the trance one, but instead I just made it curved. That's literally all I did here, and I added some stilts with some support beams. All right, so I imported my highway array from one of my previous projects. Just go to append, and then I would go to the project that I used, collection, and then import the collection and just double click on it. Now in the previous one it just went straight and nothing more, so I just added an array modifier and it's pretty easy. But in this one I made it go curve. I made it go to the left. There are people explain how to do it, but there are some things that you also need to look out for so you don't mess it up. So firstly, you would add an array modifier. Make sure the array modifier is first, and then you would add a curve modifier, and then you would shift A and add a curve. Either a Bezier curve or a path curve would work. I like the path curve personally, and I would line it up with the end of the curve, like right here. And then while you have the object selected, click the drop down here and click on fit curve, and then click on the curve that you just added. And same with this one, click the eyedropper and click on the curve. So when you add these modifiers to your object, to the curve, and parent it to the curve, it might come out a little weird. So what you can do is you can go into edit mode, and change it how you want. And now that you've done that, whenever you scale your curve, your object will scale with it, and whenever you extend your curve, your object will follow it. You have to make sure it is done exactly like that, because if it's not done exactly like that, it's gonna be really, really weird. Trust me. Sometimes people will, add a curve in there just like this, and then to their object they'll add the curve modifier first. So then when they click apply, or when they add it to there, and then they try to extend it, it's not coming out exactly how they wanted. And when they try the other side, it looks bad like that. And no one wants that. So make sure the array modifier is first. And then sometimes when they have the array modifier on there, they'll have it going the other way instead of this way. So it'll go that way. And then when they try to add or extend it, it will look a little weird because I don't think Blender tells you this, but when you add a curve modifier, there is an origin to the curve. Like there is like a start and a finish to the curve. So in this case, this side right here is the start and this side is the finish. So when you try to extend the curve to make the road curve, it will come out really weird, and trying to move in edit mode won't really fix it either, because then it will just come out like that. You'll run into all kinds of problems like that. So make sure that when you add the array modifier, this is just set to 1 and nothing more. And make sure that they're connected in edit mode. And then in edit mode, just align your highway with the curve. There you go. So it's aligned like that. So now, whenever you click on the finishing, the ending side of the curve, and you extend it, the highway will follow it. There's a lot of issues when it comes to using the array and curve modifier and objects. So knowing this just helps out a lot. Just keep this all in mind. I'm sure there are other tutorials that explain it better than I do, but just remember to do this when you're making stuff like this. Then I made the bike just follow the curve with a little bit of animation. For the camera movement, there is actually a lot going on here. So if I remember correctly, I think this circle empty is parented to the bike, and then the camera is parented to the circle parented to the bike, and the bike is parented to the curve. So I keyframed the circle to scale in size. You can see it doing it here. I made the circle scale in size. You can see it getting bigger right here. And because the circle is scaling in size, the camera also moves further away. So that kind of gets rid of me having to keyframe the camera getting further and further away. The circle just scaling up does it for me. And because the sphere empty is also parented to the bike, I also don't need to move the camera around a lot. The camera just follows it. And then the camera is just tracked to the bike. So it's always following the bike with the Ian Hubert Shakify add-on. That is all I did for the main camera setup. Then I just gave the bike, some lights, gave it a little bit of tilt, as you can see. There is actually a tiny detail. I did move the character's head a little bit so it's not so stiff when he's riding on the bike, as you can see. Besides that, though, like I said, that's really it for the foreground elements. And then there's just the sign right here, big sign. You never even see it in the final render, but it gives a kind of blue light on the floor of the road right here, so it lights up the road just a little bit more, and highlights the back of the bike. Now moving on to the main part of the render, the city itself. So ignore the parented empty lines right here. Ignore that. Try to ignore that. All I did for the city, what I did at first was I made a block out, and what I did for the roads was on YouTube, there are these videos of top-down views of roads. I just got those videos of roads and I just placed them in here. Plug the color into the alpha, and then plug the hue saturation in between the base color and the emission color, so I can change the colors to more bluish. And that's what I did for each and every single one of these. So there's this one right here that I just kind of copy and pasted all over the place. Again, there's moving cars on it. It's hard to see at 2 frames per second. Then there's this one right here, which is basically just, again, a bird's eye view of highways. And the same thing for this one. As you can see, it's like the corner, or it's like the intersection of streets, made it a little more blue, and it fills in that bottom area. And for all the areas that I couldn't cover, I found a big giant video of like pretty far up high into the sky, and I just turned it blue, and it's really low quality, but it just makes it just fills in all the places where I can't exactly see. So you can see on here some of these places I missed. So I did this method instead because I found that the method of using like a plane with like some sci-fi Greeble texture on the bottom, it doesn't give me that same oomph as like seeing actual like cars down there. It makes it feel more alive, even though you don't really see it too much in the final render. It is there, and it does give a little bit more motion to it instead of just being a static 2D image. So that's it. That's what I did for the planes, and then I just built the city around those planes. This building right here, actually, I created for this project by itself. This one was pretty easy. I just used some reference images I found on Pinterest of a building, and I just modeled it after that. And I built this one right here as well, and then I did this one right here. So I modeled these 3 new buildings. I did a 4th building as well, but it didn't really fit the vibe of the scene, so I just only put these ones in here. But yeah, these 3 buildings are new. Besides that, some of these buildings are from returning projects. So like this one I made a while ago, used in a couple. Same with this one. This one is a Lazaro building, and it's really just those ones, if I'm aware. And then these are from a pack I bought a while ago. I just textured them to match the rest of the buildings, and then when the windows blew and applied the same windows to almost all the buildings. Didn't make the emission too bright because windows aren't, you know, very glowing. They aren't very glowy in most night cities. So I just placed all these buildings wherever I'd like them around the city streets. So you can see they're not really like overlapping too much on the streets. They're kind of placed around them. And then I added more buildings. This one is also a new one I created. I created this building off a reference image off a building I saw on Pinterest. This one is a custom building that I made. But the rest of these are from a pretty cheap pack I bought a while ago. They're really low poly. There's really not a whole lot of polygons that go to them. It's really just the textures that are doing the heavy lifting of the buildings. This one is also a Lazaro building. And then this right here is a sci-fi megastructure I've built a while ago. I did a lot of texture work on the paneling right here, and the lights weren't too hard to make, but yeah, no, I just made this sci-fi megastructure a while ago, and I put it in here as a fill. So around right here, I didn't want the camera to see like just the sky, because that would kind of break the illusion of buildings that are so big you can't even see the sky anymore. So I placed this one in the back, so it kind of fills in the area back there. And besides, the camera doesn't even look at the main mega structure. It looks at the city itself, down below. All the buildings, I think, up from like this point and here are all like, they're not duplicates, but then over here I started to duplicate just a little bit. Like this one and this one here are duplicates, and this one and this one are duplicates. This one and this one are duplicates, but they're like underneath the bridge, so you don't really see them. And that's really all I did for the lighting. The streets down below really just light up the main part of the render. That's just the main lighting. It's just the emission from the movie clips of the streets. And then for a little bit of extra detail, I wanted to add like a flying car in the foreground going past the camera. There you go. That's what I did for this car right here. This one is like just a really low poly model I found online. And then I just made the wheels. The wheels used to look actually like normal, like this. But all I did was just rotate it. And then I found this texture online of like a blue swirling spiral. I placed that in the middle so it kind of gives it the effect from like Back to the Future, where like the wheels turn and starts flying around. And then these planes right here are actually a movie clip of like blue fire or like blue plasma, like bursting out. And I kind of just placed that on the wheels, so it kind of gives it like this flaring effect. I don't know what to call it, but it makes it feel as if the wheels are actually, you know, they're actually working. and as if it's actually like flying. But you don't even really see it. You really only see it for like a couple seconds in the final render. But I just made the car fly on a curve, and it just follows it all the way down to there. Just gave the car some blue headlights to match with these, and it was pretty much done. Now, as for the flying cars, this one was a little bit tricky and it was really tedious. So what I tried to do before was I tried to get a plane, and then what I would do is I would go into the particle settings, and then I would do a emitter, and I would have it emitting the cars. Yeah, so I had an emitter like this, and I had a curve that we would follow. I would put a force field on the curve, and then I'd put it to curve guide. So the emitter system of the cars would follow the curve, and it would go on like that. But there was a glitch that I kept on coming across where I couldn't put multiple curves into the scene, because then whenever I put multiple emitters in, all the cars would just gravitate towards one curve and not each their own curve. So that was a big issue. And another big issue is that whenever I click render, the cars itself wouldn't even show up in the final render, and I don't know why. I'm not good with particle systems at all. I'm really bad with them. So if anyone can, like, I don't know, tell me how to actually get this working, I would totally be glad to listen. So because that didn't work, I had to use the difficult way. So all I did was I made these really low poly cars, and I just added a car texture from project from view from, like, I think it was like this angle right here, and I put it on there, and then gave it blue headlights and red backlights. And what I did was I just copy and pasted it all over. Made different varying sizes, so I made this one like a little thinner. This one's like normal size. This one's a lot longer, and I just did that all over. Just copy and pasted each and every single one of them, and I parented them to one giant curve. And then all I would do was just select all, and then copy and paste them all over the place. Flip it around sometimes, so some cars are going the other direction, some cars are down here, and that is all I did for the flying cars here. I just keyframed. All I did was keyframe the curves that the cars were parented to make it just go forward in one straight line at a constant pace, and I just copy and pasted that all over the place. And that's just like the quick rundown of how I made this render. This plane back here is meant to fill in this area. It's meant to fill in this area right here that I can't put buildings back in. So like this area back here, if I put buildings back there, then, you know, it would use up more RAM, and I would, you know, it would take a longer time to render. But because I just placed a plane in there, and because the background is black, you're never gonna notice that there's really nothing back there. So the plane kind of fills in that extra area, and that's really it for this whole render right here. So yeah, it's just a tunnel with like a city like inside the building itself, coming out of it, and then showing to reveal the city, and that's it. Some flying cars, moving streets. And then finally, after a week of rendering, I brought it into DaVinci Resolve, where I could finally do my post-production. The first effect that I added was a noise grain. You can see the difference it makes. Adds a lot of noise to it. Kind of blurs up or mixes up the noise artifacting that still showed up in the render even after 4K. Then the next thing I added was only to the outside scene and not the tunnel scene. It was dust, or kind of just particles that were flying in the air. You can see what the overlay looks like right here. And I just put it onto color dodge mode, which is the mode that I found fits best. And it kind of, you know, it makes the scene a little more magical, a little more flair to it. And then the next part was some lens fingerprints kind of effect. I made it very, very light, and I put it onto, I made it like 14% opacity, put on color dodge. You can barely even see it in the final render. Makes it just a little bit more brighter. One of the main effects was the lens dirt though. You can see the difference it makes right here. There you go. Add some lens dirt on the camera and gives it more texture. And that's all I did for the overlays. As for the effects of the render itself, I gave it light rays first, and I made the light rays go up at an angle. Here you can mess with the angle of the light rays. You can see how it changes it right there. And I just made it look up. Next was the glow. Gave it a little more glow in only the bright spots. Next was a prism blur, which just gives it a little bit more chromatic aberration, a little bit more blur on the sides. Then the next was a lens reflection, which gives it the lens flaring effect right here. Next was halation, which kind of gives a little glowing outline to all the bright colors in the image. So the lights are here, the signs, the red part, the green part right here. It gives it a little film glowing effect, like a more vintage style. Then next I put a sharpen, which just makes the image a little bit more clearer. And then lastly, I put a JPEG image to kind of give it a little bit more lower quality effect. It's barely noticeable. It's like, it doesn't even matter at all. But that's all I did for the effects. And then lastly, was the sound design. All of these, I think like these first 4 were just all bike sound effects, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, there's that one right there. Then there's this one right here. It gets lower as the camera moves further away. Then there's this one right here, which is just a constant one, but I made the volume go lower as the camera gets further away in the render. There you go. And that's all I did for, yeah, it was just these 3 for the bike effects. For some of these sound effects, what I also did, I gave it a reverb. I can do it right here. I gave it a reverb, and then I put the preset on Cathedral. That is all I did. I changed nothing for the effects, and that's all I did. And then this next one was just echoey police siren. I gave it a little bit of reverb. This one is a sound effect to give the Doppler effect of the car flying past the camera. Right here. I think this sound effect was literally just I found like a 4K gameplay of Cyberpunk 2077 of this guy riding on his bike through the night city, and I just took a clip from there and gave it a little bit of reverb, and it comes out like this. Made the volume go a little bit lower as it gets further away. Again, audio 8 is more Cyberpunk sound effects and clips from it. Audio 9 is also more Cyberpunk 2077 sound effects. 10 is again more Cyberpunk 2077 sound effects. This sound effect right here, I think is actually from the game Mirror's Edge, if a lot of people remember that. And I just got a clip from the game where there's a car that, or flying car that goes by and gives a Doppler sound effect, and I lined it up with the car flying by in mine. There we go. And then I gave it a little more reverb. Turn the volume down when the camera gets further away. And does that. And then audio 12 is wind sound effect. So when it gets further away from the camera, you're able to hear the wind. And then the last sound effect, I think, is literally just sci-fi car or vehicle sound effect I found on YouTube. And that is all I did for, that's all the sound effects right there. And all of them together sound really good. And that is, I think that's really it. The whole Echoes of the Void render. If you guys have any questions, any tip on the particle emitter I had earlier that I had trouble with earlier, let me know. When I build more buildings, I release a new building pack of the newer ones that I've made, and I could share that with you guys eventually. Thank you guys for watching and tuning in. It means a lot. Thank you guys so much for the support. Until next time, stay frosty out there. What do I name this render?
I was thinking about that too. What are you gonna name it?
The song that is used is called Void in Blue.
Void in Blue? What if you combined the
Void
two
in
words,
Blue.
void and blue, and you called it like blue?
I'm never asking you for.
Is that actually? Is that cook with this one? Is this good?
Void of the City. What about that?
Void of the City? Well, I don't know, man. I think I kind of like blue better. Void of the City.
What about the City Void? How about that?
The void-stricken city.
No.
Why did you clip that? It's not even that funny.
Dude, I gotta clip it, bro. I gotta clip it.
The pacifier.
What about
Blue? No, it's like void and blue mixed together. Blue.
What should I name it, bro? I should just call it the City Void.
No.
I don't know
Okay.
what to call it, bro.
Okay, cool. You know what I got for you? Let me hit up my good old friend ChatGPT. Yo,
Bro.
Chat. Give me a name for a render involving the word void. Metropolitan void. Echoes of the void.
Echoes of the Void is not bad.
Thanks, Chat.
Thanks, chat.